That's perfectly balanced. Hey, what is going on you guys, it's Epic here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. I'm here today to give you a C50 endgame build that can solo all content on Intense. Now, I will give you a little disclaimer for full transparency. This is not a broken build. It is not going to be one-tapping raid bosses. That's just really not the point that we're at in Wonderlands right now, or at least the point that my melee builds are at right now. But this is my Facebutcher build and it is a Clawbringer Stabber Mancer combo. So we're going to jump right into the items, and if you want the save file, you can find it in our Discord, link in the description. So first of all, we are using one gun in this build and one gun only. It's the Stabber-matic that you'll need to get from DLC 3. Now, I have a ×7 and a ×14, but I'm going to be straight up with you guys. There really is no big difference here. Do not stress out about getting a ×14 or a ×7. Like, just get either one of them. Both of them are really good. The only difference is that one is going to be more ammo hungry. And for the enchant, we have spellcast melee damage 30. Now, for our melee weapon, we've got the Spellblade with action skill start spell damage. Now, do not worry about the hilt mod here because we're not really going to be worrying about that. Just make sure that you get a Spellblade and that it has action skill start spell damage 40. The reason for this is because we're going to be buffing our spell damage, which in turn is going to buff our melee damage. Now, for my rings here, I've got two spell damage rings. They are not identical, but ideally you would want to get something like what I've got here on this thumb cuff, which actually double rolled spell crit damage, but I don't actually think that makes a difference here on this build. But regardless, if you can get high spell damage rings, you definitely should. Now, for me personally, I am a bigger fan of the ring that gives you more effectiveness when your shield is not full, but these ones I have here are going to work just fine. Just as much spell damage as you can get is going to be key here. And next up for my shield, I'm using the Bad Egg shield. Now, a lot of people say Epic used the body rune over the Bad Egg because the Bad Egg got changed. I'm here to tell you that I have done testing and I find that for me, my best results come from using the Bad Egg. This is what's going to give you those crazy, almost bore sounds when your shield is depleted and you're shooting enemies. And if you like the body rune, go ahead and use the body rune, but I do not, which is why I go for the Bad Egg instead. Now, this is going to be a very, very important item here. It's world drop only, and it's the Universal Soldier, and this is what this build basically revolves around. The Universal Soldier makes it so that whenever you deal melee damage, you have a 30% chance to instantly reload 100% of your equipped gun's ammo. And because the Face Puncher, or the Stabber-matic in this case, does melee damage, it means that just by shooting enemies, you are never going to be reloading, which is where the name Facebutcher comes in from, because the Butcher barely ever reloads like this. Now, into my spell, of course, we have the Buffmeister. There is no better spell to use for this build than this, and I have spellcast damage dealt 15 on it. It's not really too important what Buffmeister you get, just so long as at the bottom of the card you have Zap and Bonk so that you get bonuses to your melee and your spell damage. That is going to be key to getting the most damage out of this. But you can really go for whichever element suits you if you wish. And then finally, for our last item here, we of course have the Warped Paradigm. This is another item which doesn't really matter what you get in the passive section there, just so long as you make sure that on the bottom you have melee and ability getting boosted by spell damage. This is again so that we can use all of our spell buffs to further boost the damage of the Stabber-matic. Now, into our skill tree here, we're going for pretty much a 50-50 split on Claw Stabbo here, going for as much elemental damage as we can get, and there are going to be some changes in the Stabbo tree that you might notice from a build like my Deathclaw. For example, why are we not using follow-up? Follow-up says that when we deal gun damage, our next melee attack deals increased damage, and that sounds really good, right? Well, this actually doesn't work at all with what we're doing because the Face Puncher doesn't count as gun damage, so first of all, we can't proc it off of that, and second of all, it looks for a melee attack and not melee damage, which means we are never going to be taking advantage of this skill. You may also be wondering why we don't have the Capstone spec, and it's for the same reason. The Face Puncher does not count as gun damage, and as such, it will not proc Executioner's Blade. However, just to clear up some confusion, because I know people are going to ask, we do spec Firebolt because this gun damage is not actually gun damage, it's bullet damage, and the Face Puncher does count as that. I know that's confusing, trust me, if I could reword it on there for you, I would. And for our action skill, we're actually using From the Shadows. This might be my first Clawbringer build, but I don't use the Clawbringer action skills. Now, you absolutely can, and they are still disgustingly powerful when you hit enemies with it. But I like to go with From the Shadows for when I'm just endlessly shooting enemies, sinking bullets into them. It's just insanely powerful. Now, in terms of how you actually play this build, it's very simple. In fact, this is probably the most simple build I've ever posted, and for that reason, the video is probably going to be a lot shorter. it's just as easy as shooting enemies. Just so long as you land your shots and do not miss, you will never reload. And I mean never reload. Like, it is absolutely disgusting. And I have no doubts in my mind that Gearbox are probably going to change this. But hey, what can you expect when you're walking around never having to reload a gun that shoots melee? It's almost as if this gun is slightly problematic. But yeah, this is basically how the whole build works. You just sit there shooting enemies, make sure you don't miss, and yeah, you just kill everything. Now, I will say that ammo is slightly a problem on this build since it's a one-gun build, so if you are doing Chaos Chambers, you're probably going to want to go and get the ammo capacity alters, and when you're walking around just doing normal mobbing, it might be a good idea to be picking up ammo chests, but it's a necessary evil for a build which is absolutely disgusting. I mean, again, just look at how disgusting OP that is. But that basically does it for this build. I can't say that it struggles with any boss apart from the Maker, but the Maker on C50, pretty much everybody is struggling with, because raw damaging that boss is just an ordeal right now. So with the Maker, you're probably going to have to play the little mini game of shooting the balls at her. But apart from that, this handles its business in pretty much every aspect of the game. If you enjoyed this build, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below and leave a like on the video to praise the YouTube algorithm gods. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.